Hi, my name is Khadijah. I'm a creative humanitarian and a freedom fighter. Welcome back to the Liberators channel. In this video, I want to share my experience with abandonment wounds and what I'm currently doing to overcome that. So just a little bit about me. In childhood, I'm so grateful that I had both of my parents, but I rarely saw my father. I would probably see him 2 to 3 times out of the year. And the fact that he did not participate in raising me as a young woman really affected the way that I viewed myself, my confidence, esteem, relationships with men. And even as an adult, when I would later reconcile and try to get to the bottom of why he didn't show up as much as he could have, the abandonment that I felt as a child, the wound would just grow and grow based off of the things that he would say to me and the things that he would allow his partner to say to me as well. I have 5 siblings, but I think a lot of spiritual people or just unique individuals may sometimes feel like even with a large family, you're the only one there. It's a lonely existence as a chosen one, as someone who has a specific calling. So even in that regard, feeling abandoned by my father because there was just no emotional connection there that I really needed as a child. And on top of that, I wasn't really close with my sisters or my brothers. So I felt that as a young girl, and I would always have these images in my mind. I remember being as young as 6 years old. I would play with my dolls, do sexual things with them. But I just had a very erotic mind, and I would even fantasize about sex that young. Nothing was wrong with me. I think, if anything, just my connection to the sacral space and me exploring myself as a sexual being that young, within the mind, not even the body yet. So later in life, I remember writing erotica short stories. I did this around age 12. So I'd write these stories and I'd record these stories. And one day, the files that I had on my MP3 player, all of these short erotic stories that I had written and stored on this MP3 device, was stolen from me. And using my government name and my personal information that went along with these short flicks, there were students who had access to these stories at school, and they used it to mock me. Now, for some listening to this, they may think, well, big deal. You know, you were young, you were writing romance stories, you use your name, you're a child. But unfortunately, as a result of that, I was a laughingstock for years. And what existed on this little digital device was shared and spread with different people. And I had people who stopped talking to me as a result of this. And from a young age, already having that wounded space, it just grew and grew and grew and grew. That experience really had a negative impact on me because something that took place at 12 years old influenced me throughout middle school and high school. So fast forward, I'm just talking about these different points within my life because they all tie into the abandonment and rejection that I felt. Around age 22, I became a targeted individual. I'm currently 26. And so when this took place, okay, so childhood, I felt that rejection and abandonment from dad. In middle school, I felt that rejection and humiliation from people who had took something so sacred to me and exploited my work in a sense. And then here at 22 years old, I've become a targeted individual. I'm put on this public watch list. So when I go out in public and there's primarily white people, groups of them laughing at me, pointing at me, recording me, now here's another form of rejection that I feel, along with exploitation and torment. And the fact that I didn't really know how to tell mom or dad about what was taking place with me made me feel even more abandoned, although this program is designed to break the mind, exploit the individual, and ruin familial relationships. It just, the abandonment in me just grew and grew and grew and grew from all of these different sources. And as far as the erotic thoughts go, I mentioned that because naturally I did that at a very young age, but another reason I would do that is to, I guess the best way to describe, sometimes I would see people and envision myself engage with them sexually, not even due to an attraction, but some a form to self-soothe and build connection, although I didn't have it in my personal life. It was my way of siphoning the energy that the little girl in me never got, envisioning this sexual fantasy, this form of closeness. When I review the different love languages that a father and a mother can show a child, like cuddling with them, holding them, putting them on their lap, I really have no memories of physical touch, intimacy, and I didn't realize how much that mattered to me until the age of 26, because I realized over the past few years I had been doing that with people, both men and women. Even without an attraction, I would have some desire to cling to them sexually for my own comfort. And in retrospect, I feel like it was some way of the human mind finding a way to get its needs met of intimacy and comfort, even though I isolated myself so often. And even though I fed myself this narrative that I don't need anybody, but I would still have these thoughts to compensate for something I never had before. And so in experiencing these things, it took a really long time for me to realize where this was coming from. As a targeted individual, your thoughts are broadcasted and people have access to your most intimate thoughts. And at one point in time, I remember going through what I usually do, building erotic fantasy and living within that for like 80% of the day. And via V2K, people would say, well, do you just need some sex? Trying to get to the bottom of my own issues that I'm trying to resolve. Do you just need to have sex? Have you been touched before? And as I'm trying to cope through my own issues, I'm disrupted by these thoughts, making me feel even more uncomfortable and disgusted with myself. I don't want to be figured out. I don't want them to know I have these thoughts. I don't even know why they're so frequent in my mind. And the fact that other people know is not only embarrassing me, well, past tense, it embarrassed me, but it made me feel disgusted with myself. And there was a particular time where, there were family members, particularly male, who treated me, I don't know, I would view them in a way like a daughter would view a father, assigning them that role, and the little girl in me would come out and try to do all of these things, compensate for what I never had. Sitting on the lap, cuddling, holding hands. I would have these thoughts with family members. And the fact that I reject, well, rejection makes stronger. So although I tried to suppress these thoughts, it would just intensify and build in me even more. And I didn't really know what to make out of it until I had to reflect and stop being guilty about these thoughts and realize that these are deriving from abandonment wounds as a child. Because even when I would have those perverted thoughts or these sexually distorted thoughts, it was really through the lens of a child. I'm 26 years old, but it's like this little girl in me running to cleave onto what I've never experienced before and what I've been building in my mind for years now. Um, and I'm sharing this story because if there's anybody else experiencing abandonment, not only from family, but the general public, if you happen to be a targeted individual, it's like overnight, this entire community had turned against me, was against me, rejection, abandonment, abuse, primarily from a segment of the white community, and it just fueled what I had already been experiencing at a younger age. I want you to know that you are loved, you are so important, you are valuable, and there is a spirit. Some may refer to this spirit as God, others may refer to it as Source. You are really an expression of that power, a divine expression of the infinite whole. And with that wound of abandonment, allow that power to overtake you, knowing that you are connected to something so much greater. You have tremendous value. And so just wrapping this up, some things that I'm currently working on to overcome this feeling of abandonment, healing the inner child. Let's go here. Well, as I mentioned, those sexual thoughts that I had, and even other people knowing that I had these sexual thoughts, along with body exploitation, stimulating my vaginal area, hitting me on the head, all of these things to dehumanize me. In regards to the human body, falling in love with yourself, discovering the angles, dimensions, and contours of you, every angle, every piece of you, and your holy body, your beautiful body, making way to fall in love with that through learning about bioscience, learning about the energy field, and knowing that you are a divine expression of the infinite whole. You are the image that God has imagined. What a beauty. And in the present lies the presence of God. So many people, particularly in religion, say that you were made in the likeness of God. But you, in my words, I say that you are the image that God has imagined for you. And what's more beautiful than that? Honoring your holy body, the angles, dimensions, and contours of you. Again, through bioscience, learning about physiology, learning about biomechanics, learning about psychology, learning about the energetic field, and on a deeper level, connecting to the essence and innocence of you as a spiritual being. There is a concept of karma and undoing karma, and sometimes having spirits on you, whether that happens to be jealousy, whether that happens to be a beggar, overeating, whatever these spirits happen to be, your journey here on earth is to purify who you are, purify your soul, liberate your spirit so that you could ascend to the next level. So when reconnecting to the essence and innocence of you, it's acknowledging that even if you have karmic debt, even if you have things that you're trying to overcome, there is a purity that exists in you, which is why so many people refer to connecting to the inner child, because that's the piece of you that's just free, open-minded, knowing that anything is possible and that you are a lovable, amazing being. Okay, and two more things I want to mention. So I first said connecting, exploring the dimensions, angles, and contours of you, connecting to the essence and innocence of you. And there's two more things I want to mention. Polarity practice. Now, one of the Hermetic principles is the law of polarity, knowing that, and my interpretation of this is knowing that as a being, whether you're male or female, you possess both feminine and masculine energy, electrical and magnetic energy as an electromagnetic being. Um, there's a polarity to you, and the more you explore this and your dualistic nature, you can return to a space of ma'at, because you recognize that these duals are just two sides of the same coin. And you also allow yourself to be on a deeper spiritual journey, because on a physical level, yes, there's the masculine and feminine, there's the electromagnetic field, but on a spiritual level, it's the light and shadow, knowing that one is not better than the other. You have a light side as an angelic being, but you also have a dark side that is just as valuable, often condemned, but it's the darkness making way for the light and your own soul illumination. So that's the third thing I like to mention, polarity practice. And the final thing I want to talk about is emotional weight. We live in a space where, regardless of the emotional baggage that you carry, you cannot assign that to other people. In my experience with daddy issues or even insecurities, it's nobody else's responsibility to hold that emotional weight for you. Not friends, not lovers, not even your family sometimes. You can spend years living in bitterness, years living in guilt, years living in shame because you want other people to be responsible for how you feel. But in me saying this, holding spaces for women, sacred spaces for women where we can undo this energy through transmutation and energetic healing is a goal of mine. Because in my own experience, sharing what I've gone through, sharing the thoughts that I've had as a result of abandonment and the lack of what I received as a child, and sharing that I awaken to my own oasis, my own paradise within as I heal and take off of these fixations. So holding space with women, sacred space with women, transmuting emotional energy so that we could ascend to our greatest versions is a goal of mine. So just to recap, the 4 ways that I'm overcoming my abandonment wounds and becoming my greatest version: polarity practice on a physical and spiritual level, holding space where we transmute emotional baggage into gems and jewels through the power of transmutation and energetic healing, exploring the angles, dimensions, and contours of you as a beautiful temple, because you are the image that God has imagined, and in the present lies the presence of God. And then lastly, I mentioned connecting to the innocence and essence of you, the purity of you, and knowing that this earthly experience is to help you grow and undo the baggage of not only what took place in this lifetime, but lifetimes before, so that you could evolve as a spirit and grow and become your greatest version. Peace, love, and light to you.